I'm Matt Kruger, Executive Director of Wisconsin Land and Water. Thanks everybody who's showed up, virtually joined us this afternoon, this snowy afternoon. I think as everybody knows, we made the decision as an organization not to do in-person county con meetings in December going forward. Couple reasons for that have been detailed elsewhere, so I won't get into it today. But kind of glad for that, to not be driving in a day like this. But all the same, there are a number of time-sensitive conservation issues that have come up over the past several months, and we think there's a good opportunity to make the space to get updates and talk about some of these things. So the goal of us pulling this seminar together is to provide some timely information to our county con members and provide an opportunity to engage with agency staff as well, agency partners. So there's a couple topics of importance we're going to get into today. We've got a few NRCS staff on queue to talk about some of the upcoming federal funding opportunities for conservation. For DNR staff to talk about the non-metallic mining general permit that we can learn a little bit more about, and for our DACAP partners to get some input from counties on some of the programs and initiatives that they're implementing. Also, there's been a ton of new faces, so this is just a good opportunity to see people's faces as we kind of go through the meeting. We're going to have a chance to interact a little bit. Couple logistics before I turn it over to NRCS. Everybody's pretty much a pro at these meetings by now, but we ask that you mute yourselves when not speaking. And you can use the chat box for questions. We're going to make sure that there's plenty of time. There should be plenty of time for actual questions. So you can do those through the chat, or you could wait till speakers are done and unmute yourselves. Encourage you to turn your cameras on too. It's good to see faces asking those questions. We do have a number of poll questions and things that we're going to be getting participant input on. So we should have a good and engaging discussion this afternoon, which we look forward to. And lastly, if folks are willing, for everybody who's here, new or not, it'd be great to know who is here. So if you're willing to, just drop your name in the chat box and your county affiliation if you could do that, just to see who all is in the room. We've got 66 people, which is fantastic. So go ahead and do that. And then I'll say as a preamble, us getting started with our NRCS partners, we're going to kick things off talking about the federal conservation funding opportunities. I did want to remind all of you that Wisconsin Land and Water has launched our climate resilience program. And particularly as it relates to some of the federal funding opportunities, there are facets of this program we want to make sure everybody knows about and we want to highlight. So Christina Anderson, who's helping with this meeting, she runs that program. Our job through that program is to help prepare members to be as ready as possible to access and fully utilize some of these federal conservation funds that are coming through. We also want to act as a conduit to represent you and provide input where relevant on some of the program areas that are inviting public input right now. And we basically want to serve as a consultant to help you all think about how do you implement climate resilience on the ground. So we'll put a link in the chat to our website for that, but it relates to some of the stuff we're going to be talking about today, and I'm sure it'll come up again. So without further ado, thanks everybody for putting their for weighing in the chat box. Great to see so many names and faces. I'm going to turn it over to our NRCS partners to talk about preparing for the forthcoming federal funding opportunities. We have Jamie Keith, Acting State Conservationist. We have Eric Allness, Acting State Conservationist for Partnership, or Assistant State Conservationist for Partnerships. And we have Melissa Bartz, Assistant State Conservationist for Financial Assistance Programs. Thank you all for joining us today. And I'm going to I think, Jamie, do you want to kick us off?
I will kick us off. Thank you so much, Matt, for the wonderful introduction. And thank you for Wisconsin Land and Water for actually inviting us to this event and allowing us the opportunity to speak. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jamie Keith, and I currently serve as the Acting State Conservationist for the great state of Wisconsin. I'm filling in for Standing State Conservationist Angela Biggs while she's serving on a detail with NHQ National Headquarters as Acting Deputy Chief for Management and Strategy. Just to give a little background about myself, I want to start off with that first. I'm a native of Alpine, Alabama, and a graduate of Tuskegee University with a BS in Environmental Science. In my permanent position, I serve as the Assistant State Conservationist for Field Operations in Pearl, Mississippi, covering the 21 central counties. Throughout my career, I have relished in my experiences with the agency to be able to work directly with America's farmers and forest landowners to put conservation on the ground, in turn, protecting our natural resources. Today, we are here to provide information that will facilitate Wisconsin and continuing to help people make investments on their operations and local communities to keep our working lands working. That's our main objective. The purpose of our presentation today is to provide information and to begin collaboration to prepare for forthcoming federal conservation funding opportunities. These are exciting times for us here at NRCS, and it should be exciting for you as well. It's more important to our ag and forestry communities, and we are elated to be able to share this information with you today. I don't know if the PowerPoint is actually on the screen, but Melissa.
I'll go ahead and share it, Jamie.
Perfect. So next slide, please. Okay, so just a general overview of the topics that myself and a few of the members of the NRCS Wisconsin leadership team will discuss today. They include these topics: an overview of the IRA, or the Inflation Reduction Act, and what that means for Wisconsin. I will give that. Melissa Bartz, our Assistant State Conservationist for Programs, will actually dive into NRCS conservation practices, programs, timelines, and funding, and what that could potentially look like for NRCS in fiscal year 2023. Eric Allness, our Assistant State Conservationist for Partnerships, will discuss Land Conservation Department partnerships opportunities. Lastly, we want to hear from you with an open discussion and collaboration session about NRCS and the potential opportunities discussed today. Throughout this presentation, there will be opportunities for engagement and feedback through Zoom poll questions, as Matt initially mentioned. So be ready for input on those. Next slide, please. So you asked me, what exactly is the IRA, or the Inflation Reduction Act? So just a little background. The purpose of this is to empower people. USDA is achieving a vision of building an equitable and climate smart food and agriculture economy. So on August 16, 2022, President Biden signed into law the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. This is a legislative package to fight inflation, lower prescription costs for seniors, invest in domestic energy production and manufacturing, and reduce carbon emissions by roughly 40% by year 2030. With a $750 billion healthcare tax and climate bill, where $40 billion will be utilized for USDA to expand climate-focused programs, approximately $20 billion of that will be used for additional NRCS conservation funding. That's right, $20 billion. Trust me when I say that this represents the single largest investment in climate and clean energy solutions in American history. While this may seem like a big feat to some, this is an opportunity of a lifetime for NRCS Wisconsin and our partners to help producers stay on the farm, prevent producers from becoming ineligible for future assistance, and promote climate smart ag by increasing access and equity to conservation assistance. Next slide, please. Agriculture, forestry, and rural America are uniquely affected by a warming climate. We all know that. But we are also uniquely positioned to be a meaningful part of the solution to the problem. Isn't that why we're all here? It's our passion for what we do. We want to save the environment, and it starts with us. And continue to do what we do best in working closely alongside our partners and those we serve. We are utilizing existing conservation programs that are coordinated with climate smart ag practices to conserve our precious natural resources and help ag producers make their operations more climate friendly and resilient to climate change. To effectively implement the provisions of the Inflation Reduction Act, we are working to develop strategies to expand capacity, target the additional funding, streamline program delivery, leverage partnerships, advance equity, and quantify outcomes. Our main focus is to look for those quantifiable outcomes in the form of carbon sequestration and/or greenhouse gas reduction measurements. For Wisconsin farmers, ranchers, and foresters, IRA funds will be used to seamlessly expand opportunities to participate in our core conservation programs, such as, and you all might have heard of a couple of these, EQIP, CSP, RCPP, ACEP, and CTA. For the public, we have to come and show them that we're doing our due diligence with these government funds. IRA funds will be dispersed and tracked with scientific integrity and accountability. We need you to help us with those things. Our charge is to do the behind the scenes work to create a system that ensures both. We need your help with achieving this vision. As this vision is achieved, our collaborative efforts will help support our farmers here in Wisconsin who feed the world, improve the health, nutrition, and quality of life of all Americans, and yield healthy lands, forests, and clean water. Now I'll turn it over to Melissa to take a deeper dive and discuss NRCS conservation practices, programs, timelines, funding, and what that could look like for NRCS and you in fiscal year 2023. Melissa, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jamie. All right, so the IRA, what the IRA is focused on for NRCS is promoting and helping with climate change and the adaptation to climate change while mitigating the effects of climate change. So let's just review what climate smart agriculture and forestry is. It's an integrated approach to help our farmers and landowners respond to climate change by reducing and removing greenhouse gases and adapting and building resilience and adapting to climate change while increasing agricultural productivity and incomes. Now, while mitigating the causes of climate change and adapting and building resilience to the consequences of climate change. I'm going to go through what kind of practices and what we'll be doing with these IRA funds, but we want to hear your input. We've got 3 poll questions, and I'm going to let Christina queue up the first one. So these aren't hard, but we definitely want to hear your input, and we give these questions, this feedback, this opportunity kind of through our local work group meeting annually, but we also want to hear directly from you all. And with this kind of money, we're going to need partnerships, and we're going to need to do additional outreach above and beyond what we've already been doing. So I would like to hear from you all. Can you provide an answer to the first question here? What type of farmers or landowners do you think NRCS should be doing more outreach to? And we have some choices there to pick from. Beginning farmers, BIPOC farmers, conventional or traditional farms, forest landowners, organic or transitioning to organic farmers, urban farmers, and women farmers are the choices there. So please look at that, fill out. We like your responses. We use all of this information. We take a very, look at it critically annually. What can we do? And with this kind of money, we're going to need your all help with figuring out how to target our efforts. So please fill that out.
We have a few stragglers still getting there, putting their answers in. We're almost there. All right. All right, I'll show you what we got.
All right, conventional and traditional farms. And we've been having conversations about trying to reach out to more of the groups that we already have in our state, even the large farm groups, but trying to do that additional outreach. So thanks for those responses. We'll take note of that, but it will help shape how we do our outreach going forward. All right, moving to the next one here. So what I wanted to highlight is the IRA with these climate smart practices. That is what this money has been targeted towards. Right now, we have science and technology folks that are researching what practices can we prove, have the impact on reducing greenhouse gases and mitigating the effects of climate change. And they've come out with this list, and this is not an all-inclusive list, but I did highlight the common practices that we use in Wisconsin. And like I said, this list is changing as we do more research, as we will be adding to this list, but this is what our IRA funds will be targeted towards. So we've got different categories here: soil health, Nitrogen management. The only one in the nitrogen management category is nutrient management. Livestock partnership. Grazing and pasture, and our agroforestry and wildlife habitat and forestry. So I like to think about these practices as, you know, those practices that build soil health, provide that conservation cover on the soil, and we'll be building that soil health and targeting, you know, that resilience to climate change. Christina, I'm going to have you queue up the second question, please. What land use in your area has the most conservation needs? We'd like to hear from you all. This will once again help us target where these funds go and what outreach we're doing. So Pete, please feel free, go ahead and submit your question or your answer. All right, cropland is by far and away the land use where you all think we should be focused more on getting additional funds out. Thank you for your responses. All right, next, looking at the programs that the IRA is gonna fund. So all of these programs listed here will have additional funds coming to our state. EQIP, the RCPP, the Regional Conservation Partnership Program, CSP, ASEP, our easement programs, and CTA. And CTA, for those of you that don't know, I like to think of CTA as our funding for our staff and doing that planning ahead of a contract. So trying to get that plan, work with that producer, get that plan figured out before we move into that funding contract. Looking at the current fiscal year that we're in, we have our application deadlines pretty much set, but I wanted to give you all a look, have you look at this and be able to plan kind of around what we have scheduled already. ASEP and our first EQIP sign up, we've already passed those sign up dates, but on tap here, coming around, CSP Classic after the first of the year, CSP renewals, and then our EQIP and our RCPP second sign up will be happening. Right now, staff is finishing up our CSP renewals obligations, and then we'll be moving into our EQIP for sign up. So actually taking a look at what funds we're talking about, looking at EQIP, RCPP, CSP, ASEP, and the additional programs there, this is a national perspective on what funds will be allocated through the IRA. We don't have the amount that will be coming to each state. We don't have that information yet, but this shows the exponential growth going throughout the IRA that we'll be experiencing. So we will get some additional funds here in 23, but then it just expands exponentially, the amount of money that we're talking about. Like Jamie said, it's a once in a generation type investment in conservation. So a lot to be excited about, but also with that comes a lot of responsibility to make sure that we're expending those funds properly and monitoring how those are being spent. Christina, do you want to queue up the third poll question? And going along with this, what time of year do you get the most interest or applications for conservation assistance in your office? So I showed you kind of how we have the year laid out with our application deadlines. but I'd like to hear from you all, you know, when do you see those producers coming in your office the most? And that's really what we want to make sure that our application deadlines are lining up with, is when are those producers coming into your office? So if you'd go ahead and please give us a response there. Oh, wow, almost a exact split between spring and summer, and then no specific time. So thanks for that. That does kind of give credence to us having a second equip sign up to catch those folks that don't make it in the fall. So appreciate that. All right, so like I mentioned, IRA funding. We don't know exactly how much will be coming to our state, but that we can expect that kind of information be coming out pretty quick, I believe. We're just getting information now, you know, how that's going to be rolled out and what kind of improvements are being made to be able to track that money, but we should be finding out more about that shortly. And like I said, looking at that chart, should be a slight increase in our funding here in 23, with much higher increases expected in the out years 24 through 26. Something that we'll have to keep track of, the funding, it will be tracked separately from our Farm Bill funding. So we'll keep getting our regular EQIP and CSP and RCPP funds, but we'll also get this IRA as a separate pool of money or separate account that we'll have to do some tracking on. And obviously that will fit well into our current EQIP Climate Smart Ag and Forestry Fund pool. But we may find that there's additional things that need to be tracked, and we'll adjust as needed, but we may have to create a separate pool altogether. And then another thing about IRA is the funds do expire September 30th of 2031. So that means that if we have an EQIP contract, a CSP contract, that money in that contract, if it's an IRA contract, those funds have to be implemented and paid out by that date or they expire, they go away. So additional tracking, obviously we'll have to be very aware of that when we're planning contracts to not go past that date. Looking at the Regional Conservation Partnership Program, same thing, quite a bit of Inflation Reduction Act money coming to RCPP. One thing that is a little bit different with RCPP and the IRA is that while the climate smart practices, climate smart commodity production will be a focus, the funds will not have to be entirely spent on climate smart type commodity production or climate smart practices for RCPP. It'll be a priority, but it sounds like there's a little bit more flexibility with that program and these IRA funds. We're still waiting for the final decisions, but it sounds like alternative funding arrangements will be offered through grants and agreements through the RCPP funds. Right now, we're looking at how can we better manage this kind of money that will be coming to our state. And in January or early spring here, we expect a notice of funding opportunity for both RCPP Classic and for RCPP grants. So we'll be looking for that if you're working with partners, people that are interested, looking at putting a proposal together, please reach out to myself or to Ryan Gerlich. I know many of you have worked with him, but we can help get you the information and keep you up to date with what the current information is. So what are we doing right now to prepare? So we've been staffing up for the last couple of years, and we'll continue to do that. That's been a clear message that we will need additional staff to be able to spend this kind of money. training new staff, trying to get the people on board that have been brought on the last couple of years, get them up to speed and being able to be productive, working with producers. Something in state that we've done already is we've removed all of our EQIP payment caps for this year. So we had quite a few payment caps on practices trying to be able to spread the money around. A lot of those have been removed. Some of them weren't even being used really. So we looked at them, did an analysis, and all of those have been removed going forward. And then communicating with NRCS NHQ. So our headquarters, our national office, giving them feedback on what opportunities we see to streamline our processes from all the way from planning with the producer to implementing, through our contracts. So we're working on that right now, trying to prepare. And I am going to turn it over to Eric Allness.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks so much, Melissa. And this is Eric Allness. I serve as the Assistant State Conservationist for Partnerships and based out of our state office in Madison, Wisconsin. And I want to thank again Matt, Christina, Land+Water, and everybody in attendance here today to give you the overview of the funding on the NRCS side, what we're doing internally with staffing and other things that we can. But the key point here that I want to bring up is the friendly ask, if you will, for any opportunities for collaborations between NRCS and county LCDs going forward. Wisconsin, our success is built upon really the strong working relationship that we have between NRCS and the LCDs. And that goes back so many years, and just want to continue to always have that close working relationship. And we appreciate all of our collaborations locally. And this funding opportunity through the IRA really will provide the opportunity to accelerate or amplify, if you will, especially for partner affiliate staffing collaborations. And so I want to plant that seed of ideas if you at all have any interest in some funding arrangement opportunities with NRCS. We want to have those discussions here in the immediate near term. We're all ears and want to hear what you're thinking and let you know what we have available for options or opportunities with our various grants and agreement implementations. So next slide. And so just to queue up some ideas, if you will, for collaboration opportunities between the LCDs and NRCS. And just going to make a brief comment about each and want to provide an opportunity here at the end to hear from you all as far as your ideas, reactions, thoughts, questions, and just position us favorably going forward. So the first is a friendly ask, if you will, if there's any opportunities for the county conservationists, the LCDs, to help spread this message of funding available through the IRA and NRCS and working locally at the county level as well. We would certainly greatly appreciate that, whether that be through your newsletters or through your county committees, county boards, your social media platforms. And in return, we also too, just as standard course, like to reciprocate that as well too. So with the activities that the county is doing locally, of course, we can share each other's good success and good information. So if there's opportunities to help spread this notification out, we'd be greatly appreciative of that. The second bullet point there is conservation planning assistance. And we greatly appreciate collaborations with the LCDs to help with that conservation planning. Examples like cover crop, no-till, nutrient management, things like that. We have a number of existing active agreements with county LCDs for various technical assistance and staffing collaborations. And we also have an overarching umbrella agreement with Wisconsin Land+Water that has been in effect here just recently, the last 2 or 3 years, that allows us even more flexibility or being more nimble to have contract collaborations between the state association, the local LCD, and NRCS. And so for the LCDs, the ask is this: if you have any interest in a funding agreement collaboration with NRCS to help deliver IRA. Again, we are all ears and we want to engage those conversations now. We would encourage you to reach out, of course, to your district conservationist to have that conversation, our assistants for field operations, myself, Jamie, Melissa, and also too, with the upcoming annual conference of Land and Water here, first part of March. Hopefully you can corner us, or we may in turn politely corner you to make some pressing questions, because we have needs in every county. And again, this funding opportunity, there's no way that NRCS nationwide and also in Wisconsin has the bandwidth to deliver that quantity of monies with our existing staffing structures. So we got to look for how we can hire ourselves. We got to look to streamline, but we got a partner. And again, the reason for this information and ask here today. Just continuing on here, engineering assistance with our equip conservation practices. This kind of goes hand in hand with the conservation planning assistance. But as counties, you possess fantastic technicians, engineers, staff that can deliver that high quality technical assistance. And that's of great need. Again, opportunities for agreement collaborations from a funding standpoint, whether it be for existing staff or to bring on new staff potentially on the county side as well, if you can absorb that. I want to make the pitch or promotion for consideration of application submissions for the Regional Conservation Partnership Program that Melissa had identified. I know a number of counties in the past have expressed interest and also to have been collaborating partners for projects. So for when the next funding announcements come out for that, I would really want to push hard for counties to take a hard look at whether being the main or lead applicant for those, or also just being a collaborating partner to whether it be the nonprofits or the other organizations that will be submitting that proposal. Because again, it takes a community and all working together. The alternative funding arrangements, also, as Melissa had mentioned, are going to become even greater amplified or available. We're also going to be working closely with our tribes to make that opportunity available to them. That's basically NRCS turning the keys over, if you will, to the partner, whereby the partner is distributing the financial assistance through contracts with the individual producers rather than NRCS taking that on as an administrative requirement. So it really helps the bandwidth, if you will, to deliver conservation programs and having the partners have that full ability to get those funds out for the conservation practice implementations. Next item there is the establishment of demonstration farm networks. We're using existing programs. We, of course, have all of our complementary conservation practices. New conservation practices are in the queue and will be coming out here just as they always do. We're not stagnant when it comes to conservation delivery, whether it be practices or how we apply them as well. And we like to utilize the demonstration farm networks, if you will, to collaborate with the partners and the local farmers so the farmers can try out some new innovative ideas, and then also having the farmer be the one that spreads that information to their neighbors, to other ag producers, to have that information exchange being farmer to farmer, as opposed to the more typical scenario of conservation professional to the farmer. Those have been just such a fantastic collaboration, if you will, that we've had in Wisconsin. I want to thank our counties that are a party to that currently. We have 7 demonstration farm networks throughout the state, and ultimately would love to have a demonstration farm network in every county within the state. So our interest, our intention with that will continue in the future, and this funding opportunities gives us that ability to make those agreements for those available, not only now, but hopefully for long-term in the future. And the last item there is technical service providers. We have a great need for third-party or private sector individuals to help us out with conservation planning activities, whether it be forest management plans, nutrient management plans, et cetera. And so Wisconsin, we do have the largest quantity of TSPs in the nation. We're very proud of that, but we continue to need to build that just again, because of this magnitude of funding that's being available through the IRA. So more information, more promotion, you'll be seeing about that. And again, if you can help spread the word, and or there's no limitation that county staff cannot become a certified TSPN funded through an EQIP contract with the individual landowner, or if you're so inclined, you can of course put out your own shingle and do that on your own time as a private individual as well too. And next slide, please, Melissa. And last two items here, of course, NRCS, we're going to be delivering these funds through our existing programs, but also there's going to be even greater collaborations at our national level with our national headquarters giving money to NACD and NIFWF, National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, for them in turn to issue notice of funding opportunities. Many of the counties have taken advantage of the NACD Technical Assistance Grants programs, as well as the NIFWF funding. And so when those come out here for fiscal year 2023, they're not out yet, but when they do, please do take a hard and serious look at those and consider submitting a application for those. And so with that, Christina, if we could bring up the last poll question. And this year, just to try to get temperature or feedback from county conservationists, everybody on the call here today, just to ask the question, what activity might your county be most interested in collaborating with NRCS on for IRA funding? And so just the listing that I had previously provided. Of course, this is an anonymous poll, and I'm not holding you to anything, but just want to get a sense as far as how the breakdown is for these different opportunities. And there may be more than one, of course, that you have interest in. Just trying to get temperature on which one has the greatest resonance, as you would see on your side.
They're slowly trickling in, but I bet you we got a few extra folks who can bump that percentage up a little.
Very good. And while finish out the poll, and so we have time here, I'll turn it back to you, Christina. Want to hear reactions, feedback, ideas, comments, questions. How does this strike you? Excited? This is of all of the different range, if you will, opportunities for great funding versus attrition, or where we'd have to look at cutting. We'll take opportunities for these funding opportunities, take advantage of them. So thanks for the poll feedback, and that engineering assistance led the poll, and we appreciate our collaborations with the LCDs for that, and want to have those conversations as how we can do more of that. So if I could turn it back to you, Christina, if you want to help moderate responses and some dialogue.
You bet. There are a few questions in the chat that you maybe if you can point you to. One of the questions about will you be getting staff back in every county? Do you anticipate that being one of the places you spend money?
Eric, I'll take a stab at it, and if you want to come in behind me, there will be opportunities. We will be assessing workload, the need for outreach, the need for getting out and actually getting the information out about these climate smart activities that will help us in mitigating climate change. They will potentially be done through partnership agreements, but I can't specifically say today, but we are open to recommendations as far as where this need might be with helping us getting these IRA dollars out the door and in the hands of the participants that need it. I'll turn it over to Eric as far as going and deal with some of those partnership agreements, but right now there is opportunity, and we would love to have those discussions with you all.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. I thought you covered it great, and the only item that I would extend to that is, one of the challenges we have on the NRCS side is actually just office space availability. And I never thought that would be the case or would see the day. So we're kind of at the gills, if you will, for our spacing. And yeah, you are many counties seeing new staff, and while they may not have the technical expertise right out of the gate, being maybe newly minted college grads, what they do bring is energy, enthusiasm, and so we're going to need help not only training those individuals, but yeah, we need to staff up on our side. We have the ability to start to do that and going to take advantage of that, but that takes time, and we want to look for partnership opportunities with the LCDs whereby you can bring on people that we can help support funding for, and actually you can house them on your side of the aisle or office, if you will, because of our limitation that we currently have with our space.
Great, thanks, Eric. I think you answered Greg's question about increased opportunities for cooperative agreements, but can you speak to the reimbursement rate? Is there any negotiation?
Yeah,
maybe,
absolutely.
As well as maybe match and any of those kind of negotiations?
Absolutely, yeah, good question. Thanks so much, Greg, for that. And yeah, previously when we had less money on our side, we tried to leverage that to the extent that we could with partner contributions. And in many cases, the partner would have to bring 50% or sometimes 25%. But since we do have this robust funding, yeah, we're going to look at trying to fit as much of the bill on our side to alleviate that on the partner side. And if we do have to have match requirements, we want to try to be creative with that. So if there is any out-of-pocket cash on the county side, it's either zero or very minimal. So yeah, we want to have the conversation, and we're going to try to bring every dollar that we can on our side. So you have that commitment from us.
I can elaborate on that a little bit, Eric. Just the fact that most counties, at least I can speak for ours, are at levy limits, and to bring on additional staff, there's just not the additional levy dollars or the financial means to add that. We can say we're at 100% or pretty darn close to it. The support costs are easier to come up with, but it's the salary and fringe that's hard to come by. So I mean that would be huge if we could get, even if we had anything more than 3 years is fantastic, because it takes a lot of time and effort to get those staff up to speed, and if we're bringing on new staff. But even to be a stable funding source to help promote, sustainable farming practices and, soil health initiatives, that's a big thing. If we could tap that funding and use that to expand those boots on the ground, that'd be a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. We love that. Actually, if at NRCS we can cover all the salary fringe, and yeah, counties can get that support cost, whether it be the vehicle, office space, computer, etc. There's still a cost there, but like you said, sometimes that's a little bit easier to absorb on the county side as opposed to that salary fringe. So yeah, where we can have make it work for both. That's what we need and want to do.
Excellent. Amy is wondering about the batching dates. Are there any availability to move those batching dates around? November being too late, May too early for things like cover crops?
Yeah, we take a look at that every year. We're trying to figure out how to make our staff most efficient with, balancing the different programs while also giving ourselves enough time to get the funds out to producers, get that obligated ahead of that September 30th end of fiscal year deadline for us. So every year we're kind of looking at what can we do to make it best for everyone, for the producers and for staff. We're open to ideas. We have to get that money spent and obligated by September. And that means making sure that we are spending what we're getting to make sure that we have enough money coming in for staff. Because obviously if we don't spend all of the financial assistance money, we have to send back the money for staff. So we need to give ourselves enough time to get that in contracts and spent, and be able to be nimble enough that if things come up along the way like IRA, we're able to adapt. So please send feedback. We're open to ideas, but this seems to be working out. Having the 2 EQIP signups seem to be the best of both worlds right now. So thank you for that.
Thanks. There's another question about support for outreach. you mentioned that getting this word out is really important. Is there any direct funding to support some of that outreach opportunities?
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to a massive national funding opportunity. $100 million will be coming out here real soon for that piece. And we're going to also try to have some local state level outreach agreements as well too. So again, that promotion outreach, and there's the funding opportunity to do that as well.
Great. And just Eric threw that federal registry link into the chat as well. I know many of you got some questions from NACD, some asking for some feedback to pull their comments together. We are also talking about pulling our comments together. So take a look at those questions. If you submitted anything to NACD that you'd like to share with Matt or I, so that can kind of help us as we kind of think through some of these questions as well, please email either Matt or myself, or feel free to submit your comments on your own. They're due next Wednesday. And again, Eric threw that link in the chat. Any other questions? Feel free to unmute yourself too. We're a few minutes. Okay. I think my final thing, thank you guys very much for coming. Matt, you can feel free to hop in here too. I am just going to throw one other little quick link. I put it in here earlier, but we are creating kind of we're calling it the county climate hub, where we're trying to pull as many of the resources together as possible to give you guys as much information as we can from different programs, planning, reports, Wiki, NRCS, the different federal funds, the NIACs, if you Google climate change, it's pretty intimidating. And we're trying to put this out into one nice little place that relevant material for you, which we will thank you to NRCS for letting us record this so that we can get this onto that website as well. And we'll be trying to keep that up to speed. But so I will say that this is our first stab at a climate hub for you all. So please take a look and give me any feedback, anything else that you all need. So with that, thank you. Passing it back to you, Matt.
Thanks, Christina, and thanks to Melissa and Jamie and Eric. And I don't know if they're hanging out for a while, but folks should know how to get a hold of them if you have questions and follow